We now have Bharat Gupta, CEO, Jagran New Media, in conversation with Ashwini Gangal, Managing Editor, afaqs. Heading one of the country's largest Indian language web publishing businesses comes with its fair share of challenges: audience segmentation, tech, paywalls, revenue, etc. Through this conversation, he will take us through some of them. Over to you, Ashwini.
Thank you so much, Benita. Hi, Bharat. Hi, audience.
Hi, Ashwini.
Hi. Okay, so, hi, welcome to the last session of Digipub week. Yes, we do save the best for last. Bharat has been part of the Digipub journey for many years. We've had him on several panels in the past, but this is the first time we're doing an interview with him. So it's a very special feeling. So, warm welcome to you. This interview is important for three reasons. The idea is threefold. One, to understand the Jagran perspective, of course. Two, to zoom out a little and get a sense of regional language publishing today. And three, to zoom out even more and look at the entire web publishing ecosystem through your eyes. So the question is, what are the big challenges in heading one of the largest Indian language publishing businesses? And we have exactly 20 minutes to answer this. So I want to break it down, Bharat, into four themes: content, technology, revenue, and policy. And ideally, I'd like to give 5 minutes to each theme. So let's jump right in because the clock is ticking. First of all, Bharat, let's start with content. Okay, yeah. Just give us a sense of where you are on content. Are you a print company or are you now a content company? What's the Jagran perspective on content specifically? And then we'll move to revenue.
Thank you, Ashwini. I think that's a very interesting question. So when we started our journey, we were a print company, I would say, like about 5 years back. But over the years, we evolved and we discovered that different audiences consume content differently, and that's when we got a research done, some segmentation done, and we diversified into 5 different products. So the idea was to introduce a purpose to content because there's enough of generic content which is out there. How do you introduce a purpose for content so that your audiences engage with you better? I think that was the objective. And with that, we expanded from Jagran.com to 5 different websites across health, education, women, fact check, entertainment. And I would say it worked really well for us because today we are at 100 million plus users and almost all our websites are amongst the top 5. So also that we realized that if we have to create sustainable business models, then perhaps even though it's a part of revenue question, but we have to start thinking out of the box beyond advertising. And I think in this age of content marketing, there are a lot of opportunities where organizations can position themselves. And also, when you invest into a great content team, how do you take out a great creativity out of them? So what that translates into is syndication opportunities. So if you're creating content for yourself, is there an opportunity to create content for other companies as well, or branded content solutions? And then finally, of course, subscriptions. So I think in these last 5 years, after diversifying, we have truly realized that for us, the only way is evolution into a content company where news and info is just one segment of the whole play.
Right. No, it's good that you touched upon revenue because I was going to ask you about that because today, Bharat, the narrative has moved to alternative revenue streams, well beyond display advertising. So the way I understand it from the Jagran perspective, it's the paywall. I want to know more about your subscription, your experiment with subscription with your e-paper, I think a couple of years ago. Then, of course, content syndication, like you mentioned, but do expound on that because this syndication thing held you in very good stead during the darkest hour of the pandemic, if I'm right. Then also content production, branded content and video advertising. Basically, to distill it all down to one question, Bharat, how far are you from exploiting Jagran's true potential on the revenue front? There are hyperlocal advertisers to get on board. Where are you on that front? So talk about all these, these 4 revenue pillars, if I may.
Thanks, Ashwini. So I think if we go back to 2018, for us, our primary source of revenue was display advertising, and it was contributing to maybe about 90% of the overall pie. For us, I think the challenge was that it wasn't enough to make us sustainable, and we wanted the company to turn self-sustained very soon. And that's when we started thinking that what else can be done. And that's where I think the concept of syndication clicked in. And that was our first expansion, wherein we thought that India is a very interesting market space. Today, it's the second largest internet population. And there is so much of action happening over here. So there are device manufacturers who are launching device around health services, around stuff like that. Then there are OTT players, then there are news aggregators, and almost across, be it device, be it software firms, be it other chapters, they are all looking for one thing which is common, that is content. So I think after establishing the credibility of the content, the natural expansion was, can we speak to this device manufacturer that they can outsource their Hindi content from us? Or can we speak to a partner and say that we will power your podcasts and stuff like that? And that, I think, opened the door. And quickly syndication became a new revenue source for us. Then as we move forward, we realized that there is a lot which we have to do in terms of client servicing. So display is something which is there, which is great, but it is also getting controlled through programmatic, where it is just getting bought like an inventory. But at the same time, I think once we used to interact with the direct sales team. So often they were pitching about, we were ideating on how can we make special relationships with our clients so that they get a great response and use us more. And that's when we, after a lot of discussions, we started to explore the power of storytelling with them. So again, the team was there, which understood content, which could produce videos, or which could create great graphics or illustrations. But can we use that same team to create a better narrative for an advertiser? And that is where we were approaching for, so that they come back to us again and again. And that's what shaped into a third revenue bucket. And then finally, during the pandemic in 2020, I think when a lot of other revenue streams were dry, we thought, can we start experimenting with subscription with our strongest product, which is e-paper, for example, in terms of a news offering. And we got a great response. So we experimented, we got a 10% conversion for e-paper users, which was very, very motivating. But the sum of all the efforts and journey is that in this domain, we have to continuously keep on experimenting, trying. We should not be scared about failure. And today I'm proud to say that display advertising, which contributed to maybe about 85% earlier, today in 2021-22, it is contributing to only 65% of the overall pie. So we have a 35% of new revenue generation streams. And this really helped us during the pandemic, because when initially the market was dry, when there was no display advertising, it was syndication which came into our rescue. It was branded content. Like all the agencies were closed, and some of the automobile players, they wanted a story to go out. And that's where we pitched in. So, that evolved into a great trust relationship, and touch wood, it continues.
Sure. I love the way this is swinging from content to revenue and then back to content and everything in between. But now I'm going to pivot to technology, Bharat. I just want to understand, how you're using technology to scale. And, this is a can of worms. There's big tech versus the open web. I want to understand your view on that front. Also, technology when it comes to discovery and distribution as well. I want your take on these two things. Basically, there are so many platforms around your core content. So how are you leveraging those? Is it like a frenemy thing you've got going? Where are you on that? And also, this entire edition of Digipub has been about cookies being phased out and contextual. So do talk about your data management efforts as well, the tools and the human investment you're making on the DMP front.
I think, Ashwini, this is the most interesting question, because as business heads, we have to often wear these three hats, which is content, technology, and policy. And when it comes to technology, I think fundamentally the in policy which we internally follow is built by partner. And so it is based around these fundamental concepts that we should know our core and our capability, and we should only concentrate on our core and capability, and then for remaining things you either buy or partner. Now, as news publishers, I think, or rather now in these growing times, as content first companies, our core is content. And for our content, as our own destination, maybe for most of the websites in India and even globally to extending to some large countries, maybe 30 to 40% traffic at best is limited to your own platform. And 60 to 70% traffic is coming through third-party sources, which is like, for example, a social media platform like Meta, or a search engine like Google Search, or an aggregator like Daily Hunt, or for videos, it may be YouTube. Now, is it sustainable to build each of these platforms or technology for your own distribution? Or is it important to understand that what is the power of each of these platforms, and how as content company can we align with this technology to serve our primary purpose, which is reaching out to your audiences, ensuring content discovery and brand longevity, right? So I think we were very, very clear. And I think within our own organization, we truly believe that these platforms are not just platforms, they are partners to us in our growth. And for us, it is either the platforms or partners, they help us with just one of the two things. Either they help us with audience scale, or they help us with revenue. So now it is very clear. So now if I go to Google, I know that they're gonna help me with audience scale, but how do I convert that audience into my own users is our journey, right? And that is where the another interesting thing, which is called DMP, works in. So I think the DMP, the cookies were scheduled to fade out end of last year, and thankfully they did not. And so we have been preparing ourselves for this architecture. One of the most important and fundamental thing to understand is that if internet is the new knowledge fiber, then data is the new fuel. And as publishers, we need to be very data rich. We need to understand who our audiences are. We need to invest into technology to create this ecosystem where we understand our audiences better. We are interacting with them directly and stuff like that. And that's where a data management platform comes into picture. And of course, it's a very complicated piece of technology, and possibly we could not have built it on our own. So we did tie up with a third party. 5 months into it, very soon we'll be sharing some great news with you around the implication. But yes, I think again, if we come back to core, so DMP is a very, very important aspect which every publisher should start thinking about. Yes.
Okay. So you have the human resources to make sense of all the data. I mean, it's one thing to invest in tools,
yes,
but what about hiring specialists? I mean, is that something you look to do going forward, or already doing?
Yeah. So again, a great question. So it's like if you are going in for a F1 race, can you put any driver on an F1 car? No, you cannot. So the person has to be trained, and using data is one thing. Making sense of data is another thing, and laying down the architecture of data is third thing. So the teams are also constituted in these three parts. But overall, I would say, as an organization culture, there is a very strong emphasis on data-driven or data-informed decision-making. Almost all the team members are trained to understand analytics, understand the power of numbers. How do they use their numbers to create better stories, or better marketing strategies, or better product experience? And for each of these three things, we invest a lot of time to get our teams trained. And something which I'm really proud about is that twice there have been case studies filed in by Google News initiatives, wherein we created very successful use cases using data, or developed a recommendation engine which is cookieless in nature, or which is works without login. And so I think it has been very, very interesting. But going forward, analytics and data is a core foundation for any organization which is wanting to work on this internet. Yeah.
Right. But my next question is about policy, but I just want to quickly ask you, what do you prefer? Is it news content or is it information content now? I mean, what do you identify with more, bit of both, or have you, is it just to get the nomenclature right?
So I think, again, let's go back, Ashwini, to the purpose of content. Is my purpose to inform audiences? Is my purpose to enable them with something? For example, I want to enable them with the right information to earn money or to secure great education, or is my purpose to entertain them, right? So, and this was the outcome of research, that there is no one thing. And during different times of day, or during different days of week, audiences, they go through a behavioral change where they want a little bit of everything, right? But coming to your question, today, if we talk about the news as a pure content, constitutes to maybe about 55% of our consumption audience base. And the remaining is coming through our women. So like, if I give you a strong example, then in India, male is to female ratio is almost 50-50. And the literacy rate is similar for both of them at maybe 75% or so. But when you look at women representation on internet as users, then 2 years back, when we started the journey for Har Zindagi, 3 years back, it was only limited to 27%. And why this gap? Because there was no content. And today, Har Zindagi as a website is 18 million plus users. And it is the largest website for women with 70% users as women. So now this is a great example of when you are able to produce the right kind of content, clearly focused and segmented for different audiences, engagement will follow. It's a difficult exercise, but it is a worthwhile exercise. Yeah.
Right. No, fantastic. And lastly, Bharat, just talk about content standardization, advertising standardization. On the policy front, there's just so much going on. When the minute you say data, there's a question on data storage and data privacy. What are the big gaps over there? And also, there are large platforms all around. So, are we really getting content distribution right from an India market perspective? Is it really calibrated for our market, or are we, some way off?
Okay, so I think this is the most complicated question out of the whole lot. So I think India was fairly young in this, is rather fairly young in this whole ecosystem, and with just 55% penetration. Suddenly, in last 2 years, because of pandemic, there was a huge explosion towards the medium adoption, and suddenly a lot more people are online. Now, what has this led to? I think you raised some very, very important questions that for a country like India, which is very diverse in nature, where there are a lot of first-time users who are coming in, and they're not very sure about the safety and the security. For them, maybe a product like Google is God, because they feel if I just voice in any query, the answer will come out and they will take it as truth. So while the medium has introduced, or rather democratize the way people can access information, but at the same time, it has also given birth to a lot of misinformation. And sadly, it's again people who are behind. You can't blame the technology. It is people who are using that technology in a wrong way to accelerate. But yes, beginning from one. So the first thing is ensuring privacy. The second thing is ensuring that there has to be some kind of content accountability or redressal mechanism. And the third thing is around the whole data storage piece, which we just talked about. So when we come to privacy, I think early 2018, or rather mid 2018, when GDPR was getting implemented, we went in for GDPR accreditation, and it was Ernst & Young which did it for us. So we were always committed to ensure that the user data is safe. When it comes to content in terms of an accountability towards user, where there is a redressal mechanism, even when the government was thinking about the policy, we had all our disclaimers very well on the website, along with the right kind of links to give that confidence to our consumers that you can reach out to us if you find anything offensive or debatable or stuff like that, right? And when we talk about data storage, I think now this is a very sensitive and complex subject. It varies between what kind of data. The definition varies from, or sensitivity varies from financial data to non-financial data, or critical data to non-critical data in terms of how sensitive it is. So there's a lot of debate which is happening. But and then also I would like to add that because of this change, even glossary, or something like a glossary of the kind of terms or the kinds of accents that can be used across the websites, that needs to be evolved. Every country has a glossary, right? Or advertising standards, right? Like when I just joined in, I was on mute and I was hearing the last panel discussion, but a lot of work needs to be done around even standardization of ad space and stuff like that. So I think a lot of challenges are there, but my understanding as an individual is that as publishers, we need to approach this space with an open mind. And we need to, when I say open mind, we need to work towards solving a problem. And that translates to that there is no sense having heated discussions or courtrooms and stuff like that. But I think how can we work collectively to solve a problem? Because again, India is at a very infant stage. We are just at 55% penetration. And the future is very bright. Yeah.
Perfectly summed up. What a great note to end this interview on. The future is bright, and I'm out of questions and out of time. So thank you once again, Bharat, for your time and insights. Thank you so much. And thank you, audience.
Thank you, Ashwini.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bharat and Ashwini. And thank you, audience, who joined us across our social media platforms today. With this, we are at the end of this edition of Digipub Week. I'd like to extend our gratitude to our partners for supporting us, our speakers for their valuable insights and time, and the viewers for their participation. Thank you.